everyone, Adam here. One of the questions that I'm asked a lot in life by people your age is, how do I set myself apart in the workplace? How do I get ahead in the workplace? How do I, distinguish myself from my peers? And I like to tell people one of the easiest ways to do this is to write thank yous. It seems really, like some of you are rolling your eyes, and that's okay. But it really does work. Like if you are able to show yourself to be, a moderately cultured, thoughtful, grateful human being, it makes people like you and want to do good things for you. And so you're more apt to get promoted or given better jobs or whatever the case is. So today we're going to talk about how to write thank yous in a way that will hopefully benefit you in the workplace, and of course to prove that you're not heathens. So overview for the day. Here's things we're going to talk about. In video one, we're going to talk about what are the ground rules for writing a thank you, and then also when to write. In video two, we're going to talk about the thank you formula. Believe it or not, there is a formula. Because sometimes, I don't know if you've ever sat down and write a thank you note, but you're like, thanks for the thing. And then you're like, what do I write next? I've already said thank you. And then you just end up saying something stupid and then ending with thanks again. But there is a formula. And when you see it, it's going to make so much sense to you. And you're going to be like, man, writing thank you notes is so easy now. And I sound like a thank you writing pro. And then lastly, we're going to talk about, when to write a note versus a letter. So first thing, some provisos to get these things out of the way. We are talking about writing letters and notes of thanks in the professional realm. And so, notes to grandma maybe doesn't apply here. We're going to talk about a distinction between letters and notes. A note is like a handwritten note on stationery. And whenever I talk about a letter is, like a business letter format, printed on the page. And we're going to talk about when to use each of those in a little bit. Again, the thank you notes can be professional. They don't always have to be, sappy or schmarmy. They can be professional. And then they can also be formulaic, just like most of the things that we write in this class. So why write thank you notes? So the overt reason is to express gratitude, of course. You just want to say thank you, show appreciation for some, particular gift or favor. And of course, what this does, everybody has like the most basic human emotional need is to feel appreciated. And whenever you write a thank you note, you tap directly into that and you make that person feel great about themselves for the day. That's the overt reason. The covert reason, the sort of underlying reason is that it sets you apart from the, uncouth heathen masses and shows you're at least marginally cultured and thoughtful. I wrote that, just so you're aware. I also made shows possessive for some reason. I don't know why. And the other thing is that you get better and more frequent gifts in the future. So imagine if I gave you, $500 or like a gift, and you say, thanks, Adam, that's great. I feel good. But then that goes away. And I'm like, was he really thankful? I don't know. I don't want to give him stuff again. But meanwhile, if you write me a note and it's a nice note, and then I you get the thing and you feel happy and I get the thank you note and I feel appreciated. And then that was a good exchange. I was like, wow, we're win-win, and then in the future, I'm like, man, that guy, whatever your name is a great guy. I'd like to, give him more gifts. So that's the thing that happens. All right. So what are some of these occasions that I'm talking about when it's, appropriate to write a thank you note? So anytime that you need to, specific support or generosity, anytime somebody's given you a gift or had like a special favor for you, or when a friend opens their home to you, this maybe isn't so important to you now, at age 20 or 21, because they're probably like a crush on the couch. When you get to my age, it becomes like a bigger deal because they have to give you like a real room and wash the sheets. And so, it's an imposition, and I always write thank you notes. Here's some other ones, maybe more applicable to you. After a job interview, all right? And so this is kind of handy because you write the person and say, hey, thanks for interviewing me. I enjoyed learning about your company, blah, blah, blah. And what this does is, one, it sets you apart from people because, interviews are no fun. I've been on both sides of interviews. They're no fun for anybody. They're boring to sit through because you have to sit there all day and interview like 10 or 12 candidates. And so to come back to my office and to get a thank you note that says, hey, thanks for telling me about your company and allowing me to tell you about myself, that makes me it makes my heart happy. It makes it all seem worthwhile. The other thing that it does is that it puts a letter with your name on it on my desk at the time that I'm making a decision over whether or not to hire you. That's a thing. When somebody writes you a letter of recommendation, those things are no fun to write. Nobody likes to write them, and I think sometimes they're sort of taken for granted, And so if anybody's ever written you a letter of recommendation and you have not thanked them in some way, like a thank you note, like you need to rectify that because they're a pain in the neck. All right. When somebody throws an event for you, like a bon voyage or congratulations, you're moving to the country, like kind of thing. That's always appropriate. And then when somebody donates to your organization, either money itself or in-kind donations, in-kind donations are kind of things like everything that's not money. So like maybe it's materials to run your program or, items for a silent auction, whatever the case. These are all reasons to write. So here are some ground rules. Take these to heart. They're very important. You want to write the note as soon as possible. Nobody's ever been impressed by a note that's like, hey, man, remember back in July of 2013 when you did this great thing for me? That was great. Thanks. Because the moment has passed. So I would say probably the right time frame is, if somebody does a nice thing for you, whether it's a gift or an event or an interview or whatever, I would say go home the next day, write the thank you letter, put it in the mail. By the time it gets there, that's the right amount of time, because it's been long enough that it doesn't seem like some weird, awkward transactional thing. You're like, oh, you did a nice thing. Here's a thank you note I wrote earlier today. And it comes as a bit of a surprise to them. Always send it through the mail, like the actual postal service. Nobody's ever been impressed by a thank you email. It's like nobody. And by like an hour or two gone by, that email is now below the screen and they can't even see it anymore because all the other emails have piled on top of it. Use actual stationery, like real cards. Go and buy it. You can even get them from the dollar store. The dollar store legitimately has pretty good thank you notes. That's where I'm getting the thank you notes for you all's assignment, just FYI. Always handwrite your notes legibly, no typing, and always use ink because you're not in kindergarten. I prefer blue ink, but that's just my my preference. I don't want you to think that you have to use blue or black. I would stay away from red because it makes it sound like you're grading them. Here's another weird thing. Never mention money directly. So like if I give you $50 for graduation, the right thing for you to write back to me is thanks for your generosity, Adam. Thanks for your support. It was great. I needed the money when I was running off to college, that kind of thing. Because what I'm doing in giving you money as a person, as a donor, this is a weird thing for you all to get your minds around, whether it's you personally or you running a nonprofit. Whenever I give you money, it's not about the money. It's about your place in life and your mission. And so I want to see you succeed and have the stuff that you need to be comfortable when you go off to college. And so I don't want you to hear you writing back and say, hey, thanks for the $50. Because it's not $50 to me. It's me supporting you. And so I would much rather hear thanks for your support. It was very generous. So another thing to do is never say just writing. We know that you're just writing because you're writing. It's letters on paper. That's called writing. So don't start your letter by saying just writing. You can say thank you. Like that's a good way to start. Be specific in your thanks. Nobody's ever impressed by general like, hey, thanks, you're great. So the more specific you are, the more it shows the reader that you've put thought into it and really know what you're thankful for. So, and then lastly, use general terms whenever specifics sound weird. So I would never, no, I would never write to you and be like, "Hey, thanks for visiting me in the hospital whenever I had that weird urinary tract infection." Because that's awkward and nobody wants to hear about that. So a better way to do it is to write in a euphemistic way and say, "Hey, thanks for your kindness, your support, your hospitality, whatever the case." By the way, never been in the hospital. Just want y'all to know that. Here, let's talk about letters versus notes for a moment. There's no one right way to do this, but one of the things that you want to think about is what would the recipient expect? And there's a couple things that go into that formula. One is what was given. Was it a favor? Was it money? Was it a thing? The other thing to ask yourself is, was it personal to you as an individual, or was it to your organization? All right. And so I'm going to give you a funny little story. I used to run the 4-H Foundation in Florida. We had a partnership with the CALS alumni, which is the College of Ag and Life Sciences alumni organization. and they supported our 4-Hers by feeding like 900 of them at an event. And I had a really good relationship with the woman that was in charge of the Cal's alumni. All right, so they supported us to the tune of like $4,000 feeding all these kids, and so that was an in-kind donation. And so what I did was I wrote their board a letter, because that's what they expected to receive. And so I wrote a letter on behalf of my organization, which was the Florida 4-H Foundation. And I said, thank you for supporting us, with your generous, offer to feed all of our children at this event. And then this lady took this back and showed it to their board, and it was the right thing to do because, it was organization to organization, and we showed, support in the way that they expected. But I also wrote the woman that I worked with, a personal thank you note because she had done me like a personal favor by reaching out to me to, extend me this money. And so that seemed appropriate as well. And so that one I just wrote straight to her, and I think her name was Caroline or something. And I was like, hey, I really appreciate you supporting us in this way. And so you can see how one is very personal, person to person, and the other is, more formal and business to business. Hopefully that makes sense to you all. When we come back, we're going to talk about the thank you formula, and you're going to be blown away. So don't go away.
Oh,